Hello everyone and welcome back to Capacity TV. We're here at Datacloud Global Congress. I'm Amber Jackson and I'm delighted to be joined by two executives from DC Byte. We've got Bernard Johnson, the CEO, and we've got Scott Roots, the Sales Director for the EMEA region. Welcome to you both. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good to see you.
Bernard, I'll start with you. What are the key changes that DC Byte has seen in the global data center market recently?
Yeah, I think the last year has been fascinating. That the industry continues to move with great amount of pace, great amount of dynamism. Growth is on the up everywhere. So from that point of view, we see trends sort of coalescing rather than changing. Obviously, AI is still the predominant growth driver, as everyone knows. Everyone is talking about power constraints, as they always have been, but I think really power availability is one of the primary things that people are most concerned about. And as a result of that sort of changing people's view around risk and risk perception around facilities across the board, we're seeing a lot of people looking at facilities with early stage leasing, for example. I think is a really big dynamic of the conversation this time. How much can you take the risk out of developments as early as possible? So we don't see changes per se as so much as the market really focusing on what is deliverable, what can be guaranteed, what is PR, what is actually going to happen, and that's what we're here for, to do and deliver back to the market.
And Scott, as Bernard's just mentioned, obviously there's been such growth in recent years, but that's obviously led to some of the more established markets showing some constraints. What does this mean for the market as a whole?
I think as a whole, we're seeing that those constraints are not really suppressing the demand. All that's really doing is redistributing the demand to other places. So, the historic growth hubs of FLAP-D, Singapore, North Virginia are now capacity allocated markets. So if somebody critically has to be there, they'll find a way to be there. But what we're seeing is that the demand is spilling into other regions close by. And it's really sort of driving a power-led strategy by the data center developers. So what we're looking at DC Byte is the kind of quality of the background of these projects we're seeing come through the pipeline. So, what is the power? What's the permitting? Who are the potential tenants? And critically important in conversations we've been having quite a lot here in Cannes this week is around the community support of these data center developments, because we're seeing, the possibility of getting power and getting permissions and all this kind of thing. But if it's not backed by the community, then it's a really difficult sell. So, there's policy and grid reform are coming in, but one of the key things is that community acceptance, and that's where the data centers need to learn how to integrate and offer value back to the community.
And from a DC Byte perspective, are there any particular markets that you feel industry stakeholders should be watching at the moment?
Yeah, I think, none of these, I don't think will come as any great surprise, but, at DC Byte, we've written reports recently around the Sijori market. So this is, Singapore, Johor and sort of surrounding areas. We're seeing obviously Singapore being suppressed in its capability, but Johor has grown exponentially over the past few months, years, if you will. Bangkok in Thailand has become a really interesting alternative to Singapore in Southeast Asia. If we look here in Europe, the Nordics, Iberia, Northern Italy, Northern Greece, but also the Med Sea landing station cities, Barcelona, Genoa, Marseille, even Crete. Then over in the US, Canada's a really interesting alternative market, both politically stable, power availability, climate-wise, and then North America itself, USA, Texas, Georgia, Pennsylvania. And we're seeing growth in Virginia, but just not necessarily in Ashburn or in Loudoun County. North Virginia has a lot more to offer around it. But again, it comes back to lining up all of the things that's needed. So whether that's the power grid, the connectivity, land, political, and the community.
I mean, well, it certainly sounds like a really, really exciting time for the industry. But Bernard, I'm keen to get your thoughts on the big picture. What's next for DC Byte and what's next for the sector?
I'm very kind. I think as Scott said, look, the dynamics are very much that this is a global market. People need to understand how all markets are playing simultaneously. Even if their decisions are quite local, it affects everything around their supply chain deliverability, their strategy, their competitive set. markets are increasingly interdependent in my view. I think as a result of that, that sort of points where DC Byte is going. We'll continue to be the global player in terms of understanding the full market. We think people really need to understand forecasting alongside actually what's been announced, what is coming through in terms of the pipeline. We're really focused on delivering good forecasting analytics across the board. Lots of our customers are interested around that. And look, everyone knows it, but hyperscaler activity, drives the market and it pulls demand, it pulls supply, it pulls all sorts of things that happen within the marketplace. So we're doing a lot more detailed work around hyperscaler analytics. So we'd love our clients and people to come and talk to us about that. But I think that fundamentally understanding not today around power delivery constraints, supply chain constraints, but how that's going to progress going forwards, how that fits within deliverability of pipeline, but also importantly, how that fits in your strategy and your competitor strategies, tells you where your opportunities are. And I think really understanding that picture is the key thing at the moment. Intelligence is king in a market like this, and there's lots of people here having a great time and really understanding that it's a very dynamic, bullish market, but it's hyper competitive. It is not a simple place to win out at the moment. And look, we're here to help around that.
Fantastic. Well, it's great to see you both in Cannes. Thank you so much for your time.
Amber, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great.